Bennifer is back. Brad and Jen are friends again. And Paris Hilton is somehow still making headlines. 20 years later, we're living in the world that the 2000s tabloids created. On this series, I'm going to tell you the story of a decade of American life through the trash we love to consume. From Spotify and the Ringer Podcast Network, I'm Claire Malone, and this is Just Like Us, the tabloids that changed America. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by eBay Authenticity Guarantee. eBay knows that when it comes to jewelry, authenticity is the real gem. When you see the blue check mark that says Authenticity Guarantee, it means your next piece will be carefully inspired by jewelry experts and will always be worth its weight in gold. Whether you're looking to make a statement or build the perfect everyday look, eBay is making sure you get the real deal. With eBay Authenticity Guarantee, you can trust that jaw-dropping piece will always arrive jaw-droppingly real. Ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. This episode is brought to you by Visible. Maybe you've already let your New Year's resolution slip. We all have, but you can still make a 2 year's resolution with Visible. Right now, you can get a one-line wireless plan from Visible for just $20 per month for 24 months. 24 months is basically 4 Bachelor seasons. That could be 4 engagements, 4 broken engagements. So many other couples we didn't see coming. It's really an eternity in Bachelor Nation. And that's unlimited 5G data powered by Verizon with no annual contracts. Switch now at Visible.com and use the code VISIBLE24. Don't miss out. Offer ends January 31st. New members only. Promotional rate with service on the Visible plan. For additional terms and network management practices, see Visible.com. Welcome back to Bachelor Party. I'm Juliet Litman. It's been a minute. Needed to catch my breath after that wild finale and think about what Gabby and Rachel could be doing as Bachelorettes together. But there's been a lot of news lately, so it seemed like a great time to fire up the pod once again. I hope you're having a great spring so far. I'm joined today by Morgan Wright. Morgan, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, Juliet. Thank you. I feel a little less nervous than I was the first time around. I got to be honest.
You did a great job.
Like the first, other Bachelor podcast that I ever went on as a guest. So I have a little bit more experience under my belt this time. I feel like I'll be able to do a little bit of a better job with you.
Well, I asked you to come on because my co-host, Callie Curry, she introduced me to your Instagram because you provide a lot of news. And I keep up with a lot of Bachelor news through your Instagram account. I'm not on TikTok. I know that's a place where you are. I am old. And also, as I've said a million times, it's too noisy for me. Like, I like my social media to be passive and quiet. Yes. And TikTok is inherently a loud situation. So
TikTok is all caps. You know what I mean? Like, if you're writing out a message, Instagram has proper punctuation, but TikTok is all capital letters all the time.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Although I did watch that incredible TikTok of the mom showing her sons their new house, and they didn't realize it was their new house until they saw their Bluetooth speaker in the living room. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God, it's gone viral. I'll send it to you after. It is so sweet. We're here today to talk about Bachelor news. I think we have to start with what the fuck happened with Clayton and this woman who claims that she hooked up with him after meeting at the Penny Farthing here in New York City. I want you to give us the blow by blow, but first I want to tell you the Penny Farthing is where this woman says she met Clayton. I've been to the Penny Farthing many times.
That was my first question I was going to ask you because I've only been to New York City one time and I can tell you I have not been to Penny Farthing. So I need to know, the scene that this is being set at.
Sure. Okay. Well, why don't you give us the overview and I will tell along the way, I'll tell you about Penny Farthing and we'll talk about Clayton, who I can't stand, just to be clear, as we get into it.
So how I learned about the story, I was in bed at 8:30 p.m. on a Saturday, like I do, definitely not in the clubbing scene on Saturday night. I am old. I mean, I know you said you were, but I am too. And somebody sent me, the video of this girl on TikTok telling this elaborate story about how she met a bachelor. She didn't say who it was. She never mentioned his name, but said that it was a bachelor. It wasn't somebody who was on The Bachelorette, that she went home with this guy. that she knew it was him, and that after she left, she looked him up and he was still with his winner. She didn't know if they were engaged or whatever. And, the whole world just kind of blew up. The Bachelor world anyways blew up, thinking, who could this be? Some people thought it was maybe Matt James, but not a lot of other options besides Clayton, because none of the most recent Bachelors are still with their winners. So I remember I saw the video and I just looked at the comments, and I think I was the first person to see that she actually wrote Clayton's name in the comment. And that's when I posted my video with that receipt of, okay, here's his name in the comment section. And then, all hell broke loose. An hour later, Clayton is defending himself on Instagram, sharing his location. We didn't hear a lot from Susie that night, which I actually love, because the next morning, she gets on and she is also pulling out her receipts. I feel like Susie definitely wears the pants in that relationship. Like, she could not be
absolutely
any less bothered by it. But I felt like Clayton was in a corner, like crying somewhere over it. Which, if you're being accused of something you didn't do and having all of Bachelor Nation come at you for it, I can imagine that would be very stressful. So I'm not going to judge him about that.
Before I knew all the details, I believed it. I was like, oh, this sounds right. I was like, oh, Bachelor guy cheating on his girlfriend already in New York. I'm like, yeah, sure. That sounds right. But then Clayton had a lot of receipts to disprove it. Yeah. And of course, Reality Steve started getting involved. But at first I was like, okay, sure. Like, it actually does seem like something that would happen. So I was like willing to give this girl a chance. Also, like, I guess that, like, just after his season, Clayton gets no benefit of the doubt for me. I'm just like, this guy's a dummy. So, especially when it comes to dating.
I think that was really the issue, right? Is that he's been through so much crap already, by his own doing. I mean, we all know the saga that went down on his season, but people don't give him the benefit of the doubt because of what we saw. So I think that he kind of had maybe a little bit of PTSD from all the stuff that he endured when he was on our television screens. But, then this girl gets on and makes another video adamant that, I did hook up with this guy. Like, I know that I did. I'm talking to Reality Steve. And then we find out that she sent Reality Steve a photo, and Reality Steve says, that's not Clayton.
What was the photo of?
So I actually have it up on my Instagram story. I can send it to you, but it was security footage from, I guess, if it was either...
it looks like a dorm security footage, I think.
Yeah, like maybe an apartment complex or maybe a dorm, like you said, but it was the back of them. So you can't see the guy's face, but you can tell that he's a little bit leaner, I guess, than Clayton would be.
Yeah.
But same kind of...
Doesn't have the massive thighs, no shot.
No.
It's just a defining characteristic of Clayton.
And it's like, she claims she didn't watch this show. So if she really has no idea who this guy is and maybe is a little bit drunk, is that believable that she would really be tricked into thinking that this guy is Clayton? I don't know. I don't know if she's just trying to cover her tracks. I feel like if that really happened to her, she could easily sue this guy, because that has to be illegal.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not good. The picture is really weird though. I'm like, how did she get that? Like, did she ask her building security camera? Like, I don't know. So the Penny Farthing is in the East Village. It's on like 13th Street and like 2nd Avenue, something like that. It is like, they have good food. Like they definitely do. And it's like a total like bro bar. Like, it doesn't surprise me that you would meet a guy there who like probably thought it was funny to tell some girl that he was the Bachelor.
Yeah, that's just the clientele.
Yes, I also think that maybe, I wonder if he did it. I don't know why I'm giving this total creep the benefit of the doubt, but I do wonder if like he said it thinking she would know that he was lying or joking or like refute it or something, because it's so outrageous and like such a galling thing to do. It's pretty weird.
It's pretty like stereotypical, but I feel like, any senior in college, I would say about 90% of girls watch The Bachelor when they're seniors in college, at least know what's going on. So maybe he does this all the time. It's like actually very creepy and scary if that's the case.
Yeah. And then I felt really bad for her. I mean, it's shitty to try to like call a bachelor out on social media and just like air out your dirty laundry. Like, I don't know. I guess just personally, I'm not really trying to tell the world about who I'm hooking up with. So,
right.
But she then had there was like a lot of backlash. Like all of these dudes from Bachelor and Bachelorette being like, I stand with Clayton, and like Michael A doing like a long video about like how it's like fucked up what she did. And these are real people's lives. And it's like, well, she's a real person too. And I don't know. And then it's like also just so embarrassing and everyone knows about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt really bad for her.
I feel like Michael has...
You know him, right?
Yeah, I do. And he has a really big heart, and he has a soft spot for Clayton because I feel like Clayton really leaned on Michael during his season. I guess there were some really, bad nights. And at the end of the day, Michael was a really good friend to Clayton. So maybe that's why he felt like he had to publicly defend him, because they are friends. And if anyone knows how bad Clayton went through it mentally during his season, it was Michael. Yeah. And I mean, look,
how do they know each other though? Clayton they were on different seasons.
I think that they're just connected through the Bachelor world,
Oh, okay. Bachelor Nation, citizens of the same land. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, if you have no idea what you're getting into with Bachelor Nation, like this girl, I don't think really knew what was about to happen. All of us knew, because Bachelor Nation is insane and psychotic sometimes, like a little too much. Even the fans, I think, can be a lot. I feel bad for her if she was truly tricked, because that's scary. And any girl who's ever gone home with a guy at a bar and then realized, I don't know who I went home with last night, that has to be like one of the worst feelings in the world I can imagine.
Terrifying. Yeah, legitimately terrifying. Like you said, if it's not illegal, it's like the subject of a Netflix documentary.
Yes.
It's like the Tinder swindler.
Yes. Now, I also, like you said, wouldn't have got on and blasted it, to the ends of TikTok. And I feel like, was it initially to gain followers and to have this viral moment? I think probably, but I don't think she expected the avalanche of what was to come after that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And then her apology videos are like really sad. I actually didn't watch them because it depressed me too much. But it was just like a young woman staring straight into camera, dark, just seemed sad, wearing like your sad sweats, not like your cute matching twin set for your TikTok video. And
it's funny because she made sure she looked real good for the first one. She was in like this cute little shirt that looked like she was going out. Her hair was done. And then in the apology video, it is like big hoodie over the head, like hair on top of her head. So I'm like, she's been going through it.
Yeah. I also, what did you think about her? So one thing that Clayton did to show that she was wrong was he was able to like show his location, which I don't know how to do that on my phone. Once again, I'm old. Like I
don't know how to do that either.
Do you get to have is there like a log of everywhere you've been? I thought it just moves with you. I only share my location with 2 friends, so I don't really know how it works.
I like actively don't share my location. Like whenever you open an app or something and it's like, can I have access to this? I always click no.
Same.
So I'm
same.
How does he? I don't know. That's just a weird thing to have like immediate knowledge of and already have it turned on. It's like, what happened to make you A, know that this feature exists, and B, already have it like turned on, ready to go on your phone?
I don't know. And just like, does Susie not trust him? Like, I think ultimately that's a red flag to me about their relationship. So I don't know how that's going.
And it's just, the whole thing was just such a wild ride. And it's like I said before, I was really surprised in a good way with how Susie handled the whole situation, because I felt like she would be really upset and whatever, but it almost felt like the opposite. Like it felt like she thought it was funny, and she came with her receipts, and in her TikTok video she was like making jokes throughout the whole entire thing. And I don't know, I just think it's funny that Clayton's the one that is super upset and Susie's the one that's like, just let it go, dude. Like it's just this random girl on TikTok.
Yeah. And then he kept posting those screenshots of his response. She sent him voice memos, which is a great move. I love a voice memo. And he wrote back in text, which I'm kind of like, did he do that because that's how he wanted to respond, or for the receipts? I guess we won't know. But I think he was upset because he is just like really obsessed with how people receive him. Like he's
Yes.
that's like one of the things we learned from his season of The Bachelor is like he really cares what other people think about him. And I think the reason why he handled the end of the show so poorly is because he's just really worried about how he's being received, which is like normal. But if that's a big focus for you, that's tough on reality TV because it's like you're opening yourself up to so much criticism. Even if you're great, like even if you're like, you know, someone like Michelle, who everyone loves, or at least everyone I know, you're still going to get a lot of feedback that like even like something that's totally benign could hit you the wrong way if you care a lot.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe producers kind of saw that in him. And I mean, he didn't make it that far on Michelle's season. Right. So he didn't really have the opportunity to, you know, gain a fan base, you know, with the viewers in a good way or a bad way. So it's like he kind of went into it, even though he was on a previous season, but with not a lot of experience on backlash or people being like Team Clayton. And I think that it was just way too much for him to handle. Like you said, I've also always thought he cares a lot about what other people think of him. And at the end of the day, especially with this, you just can't. And it's funny because I will end up having much more respect for someone like Matt James, who watching his season, I was like so annoyed with him the whole entire time. A lot of people were. But now I really like him because I feel like we're seeing him in a whole new light where I feel like I'm seeing Clayton in the same light that I saw him on the show. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Clayton seems like he wants the attention and therefore was like kind of comfortable with it. Matt seemed uncomfortable the whole time. Plus, obviously, his season was deeply flawed. I still I don't really know exactly what to make of Matt and Rachel's relationship. Like, I have to assume they're working through things together. And I do hope, you know, I do think that something like with Rachel, like it does seem, to the extent I know, it seems like she's like putting in the necessary like learning hours to become like a less ignorant and like a frankly less racist person, or at least like less casually racist. I think it's just really hard to separate, like for me as just like a commentator, to separate any of my thoughts on their relationship from the context in which we saw it unfold. And after the final rose was so uncomfortable and everything about that season was so counterproductive that it's like just very hard for me to really like have an opinion or engage or feel invested in them, which honestly is probably the best for them. Like if no one is really caring, it's probably good for them. And I just hope that she's, you know, she is doing that work. It's such a cliche, but I do hope that it is happening. But I agree with you. Like Clayton seems to be who we thought he was. And if that's what Susie wants, that's great. She does have a maturity to her, as you pointed out. And I haven't kept up with them that closely, but I how much longer do you think they'll date? Like what's your guess for Susie and Clayton?
Oh, I think probably, I'll give it a year. I think they'll have a long relationship. You know, if you move in with somebody, it's got to be pretty serious.
Totally. Yeah.
But I just don't see them getting married, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're both really young. I mean, and that's okay. So, you know, and also, you know, maybe they will get married. I don't know. But I want to hit two other topics of Bachelor news and gossip. The first, which I forgot to mention to you beforehand, so sorry. I want to talk about what's happening with Bachelor in Paradise.
Yes,
I was worried it wasn't going to happen when I heard about the timing for the next Bachelorette season, which begins on July 11th, which means it'll probably go to mid to late September. Mm-hmm. I now understand why they're able to do that, because Dancing with the Stars is moving to Disney Plus, so that Monday slot that used to take up will be free in the fall, and then they can air some football games, which I think ABC announced. So that's fine, but still my question is, when is Paradise going to air, and are we going to get the old Bachelor? Because that's like, you know, they're clearly back on schedule for Bachelor, so Bachelor will come again in January, and we got Gabby and Rachel coming in July. So what are they saying on the internet streets about when Paradise is going to air and when it's going to film?
So I think it will air like where The Bachelorette used to, just push back a little bit. So essentially, instead of having that Paradise in the middle, It would be Bachelor, Bachelorette, and then Paradise, which I've heard that they're like not considering a lot of people from, the past couple of cycles, and that a lot of them are going to be from Clayton's season and then from Gabby. And
so it's like a reset.
Yeah, I think a little bit. I'm not sure why. I don't know if that's true. I mean, I'm sure we'll see. We always see previous members, but the majority of them aren't going to be people like Andrew or Greg. They'll be more of Gabby and Rachel's guys, which I'm a little bit. I mean, I wanted to see some of Katie's guys on Paradise. If you asked me to name them, I couldn't. I mean, I honestly would have liked to see Greg and Andrew there together. I just like the two of them together. I think if their friendship is single,
sweet. This is a pro-Greg podcast.
Okay, good. Because I was feeling a little bit insecure when I was getting ready to say, but I would have loved to see a double Bachelor with Greg and Andrew. I think that would be so fun.
Yeah, they might still do that. I'm excited about the duality. We'll come back to that in a second. If that is true, if they are only having cast members from this next Bachelorette season with Rachel and Gabby and Clayton's season, I would guess they're doing that to avoid too many long-standing relationships getting in the way. Because obviously the Brendan and Piper situation and like all the other, like we knew each other before the show.
Right. That's true.
It really corrupts the show. Not that it's like not good television. I mean, the Brendan implosion was definitely riveting and also sad. But it makes it takes control away from the producers and like makes the storytelling less interesting because they have to give you all this context and like give you all of the information about like what Natasha or what Piper and Brendan were talking about like on the daybed or whatever. And so they can't like grow storylines within the show. So it probably makes it way harder to do it. And I would guess that might be why if they go in that direction. But it's still either is going to run alongside The Bachelorette or it's going to run in the fall. So I'm just confused because it used to be Bachelorette would start Memorial Day weekend and run to the middle of July or end of July. And then basically Paradise would go from the first week of August to mid-September, which was way too long, by the way. Like by the time you get to September, it's like, we're ready to move on.
Yeah. So, well, not to mention 2-hour episodes Monday and Tuesday. Like it is brutal. Not needed.
It's brutal. I completely agree. It really tests my my fortitude as a Bachelor podcaster. But
I'm really hoping they shorten it because it's just too much to commit 4 hours a week, to Bachelor in Paradise. Yes, we love it, but either make it, 1 hour Monday and Tuesday or 2 hours on a Monday. But to do both is just a lot.
This episode is brought to you by eBay Authenticity Guarantee. eBay knows that when it comes to jewelry, authenticity is the real gem. When you see the blue check mark that says Authenticity Guarantee, it means your next piece will be carefully inspired by jewelry experts and will always be worth its weight in gold. Whether you're looking to make a statement or build the perfect everyday look, eBay is making sure you get the real deal. With eBay Authenticity Guarantee, you can trust that jaw-dropping piece will always arrive jaw-droppingly real. Ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. This episode is brought to you by Visible. Maybe you've already let your New Year's resolution slip. We all have, but you can still make a 2 year's resolution with Visible. Right now, you can get a one-line wireless plan from Visible for just $20 per month for 24 months. 24 months is basically 4 Bachelor seasons. That could be 4 engagements, 4 broken engagements, so many other couples we didn't see them coming. It's really an eternity in Bachelor Nation. And that's unlimited 5G data powered by Verizon with no annual contracts. Switch now at Visible.com and use the code Visible24. Don't miss out. Offer ends January 31st. New members only. Promotional rate with service on the Visible plan. For additional terms and network management practices, see Visible.com.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need, have coverage options to protect the things you value most, file a claim right on the State Farm mobile app, and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
I also think maybe they should like put it on streaming. Just put it straight on Hulu. See how that happens. Helps Hulu or something. I don't know. But I really want Old Bachelor. So if Bachelor in Paradise is coming in the fall and we don't get Old Bachelor, I'm going to be pissed.
I know. They've been teasing it forever.
I know.
Literally, it feels like for 5 years they have been advertising it.
And it worked out so well with Rachel getting to the final when her entrance was with the older woman. So
yeah,
they've got to do it. Next topic. Gabby and Rachel, they're in production. They're traveling. Mike Fleiss is tweeting about it. They're in Europe. I'm really excited. I really I don't know how this is going to go, but did you watch Joe Millionaire by any chance?
I did, and I was obsessed with it. So I'm glad that
how did that work?
This.
What was the format of that?
So, essentially in like a rose ceremony type of situation, right? Both the guys would be there and then all the girls would be there as well. And then the host, it was a butler, his name was Martin, would be the one to call out the girls' names and say, you know, they would like to spend more time with you. And you didn't really know who was connecting the most with who until they got down to like maybe the final 8. And then they had to make a decision, you know, who are you here for? Kurt or Steven. And then from there on out, it would just be focusing on those relationships between the two people. I think it was a lot, actually. I think it was the final 4. So I just don't want to be wrong and people to like flood my DMs.
Don't worry about it. I'm wrong all the time. It's fine.
They get to a point where they have to choose which one they want to be with. So I feel like they definitely could go that route. And I mean, I thought Joe Millionaire was amazing. And even watching it, this was before they announced the double Bachelorette. I was like, this is what The Bachelor needs to do because it creates so much organic drama and the guys never turned against each other. You know, they were like, they had a bromance throughout the whole entire time. So it's like, if you know how to do it right, because that's the biggest concern for a lot of people, right? They don't want to see Gabby and Rachel hate each other at the end of the process over some stupid guy. So it's like, if you really work hard to make sure that the two leads stay connected, stay friends, then it does have infinite possibilities to create drama on its own internally and be that much better, I think.
Yeah. I think there's just also an opportunity for there to like be friendship. Like, I don't know if you watched F-Boy Island, but I liked watching the women of that show like talk to each other and share notes and defend each other. I also really enjoyed Nikki Glazer on that.
Oh, no, I didn't watch it, but I've heard good things.
It was good. Yeah. I think there's just also like an opportunity to approach it kind of differently. And so I'm all for it. They just need to shake up the show to keep it relevant too. Agreed. Another thing I'm really enjoying is like as I was Googling about like how are we getting updates on Gabby and Rachel, a lot of it is coming from Jesse Palmer's personal Instagram. And
of course,
I love Jesse, so I'm like, great, let's make him the mouthpiece and like see how it goes. But
oh my gosh, the biggest conspiracy theory out there is that Jesse Palmer is the one that took the TikTok girl home.
Oh my God. He's filming. There's no way. They're in Europe right now.
So funny.
I don't believe it for 1 second. Also, the other thing about having 2 bachelorettes is like neither has to be great at the role. There's just like a lot more to work with. So like you're not banking on one person being perfect. I think it's going to be good.
And I think that they would balance each other really well, you know, because Rachel, I feel like, is a little bit more reserved. Gabby's a little bit, you know, goofier. But I think together, you know, it could create a good balance.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Last we learned they were in Paris. Mike Fleiss tweeted a picture of them. So I wish them the best. You had Tammy on your podcast this week. I
did, yes.
Tell us the name of your podcast and where we can find it.
It's Morgan's Pop Talks. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Pods. It's also all linked on my Instagram and my TikTok page at Morgan P Talks. So if you have trouble finding it, just come see me there.
Gotcha. Okay. I always liked Tammy. And then she got into like some fights. She sort of was like turned into a mean girl, but I was a big fan of hers at the beginning. She was on Peter's season, I believe.
Yes.
What's she up to now?
She's up to a lot. I think that Tammy is really just misunderstood. I feel like I also really, really enjoyed her, but she did sometimes get into a little bit of hot water. But, you know, I think sometimes there was like a double standard against her. Like everyone was mad at her for, you know, the Thomas and Aaron situation when Aaron was also making out with like Serena and nobody cared. It's like we're on Bachelor in Paradise. Like she should not be shamed for exploring other options. I'm sorry that Aaron got his ego hurt, but she actually talked to me a lot about that. Her and Aaron still are not on good terms. He like really holds a grudge against her and makes her life awkward whenever they're together. But the most interesting thing that we spoke about, because she did do this Instagram story about a month ago, essentially like breaking up with the Bachelor franchise, saying that she was done and that, she has done all she can do for them. And it was really like intense. Do you remember that Instagram story?
Yeah, of course.
So we talked about that. And of course, she can't tell me explicitly because their NDAs are literally for life. So she would get in trouble. But she said she's been working on something with them for a very, very long time. It would have been a first, which, she would be the first Asian lead potentially if she was a Bachelorette. She said that she believes that producers have a core group of favorites and that even though she's tried really, really hard to be one, she's not one and she never will be one. And, she said that she felt like the rug was pulled out from underneath her. And I asked her, I said, well, is it something that you could do on your own or did you need, the franchise support behind you? And she said, yeah, I needed the franchise support behind me. And I asked her, I said, was it Bachelorette? And, I can't confirm or deny. That's what she said. So I genuinely believe that they at least made her think that she was in the realm of possibility to be the first Asian lead Bachelorette and that was the direction that they were potentially going to go. And then they decided not to.
That's too bad. I think I have a hard time believing she was ever really in contention though, because they very infrequently cast a villain into that. Like even Nick, when he became Bachelor, had like this real redemption on Paradise first. And so I would be surprised, but I think they just manipulate you and play with you. So who
100%. Yeah. They definitely use you. They need you until they don't, And I mean, especially when the topic of diversity has been so prominent in the franchise the past couple of years, they need someone like Tammy until they don't. And I feel for her in that aspect of it.
And I think that's why someone like her or like Chris Bukowski, like they're just like, I'm done with this. Like I'm out, moving on, which is probably healthy, start over with a new phase of life.
She did say she potentially was coming back to TV on a different network.
Oh,
so who knows what she's going to be up to.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. We got 2 more items we need to hit. Next, Tia Booth, who was delightful on Paradise last time. Was that last time? Yeah. She just got engaged. She got proposed to by her boyfriend at the Bachelor live show a couple of days ago on stage. And I'm happy for her, disappointed for us as viewers. But Morgan, you just got engaged. Would you want to be engaged to on stage like that?
Well, what's funny is that I was proposed to on a stage in front of a handful of people, like, 20 people or so. So, here's something that you might not know. My dad actually is a pastor of a non-denominational church. And it's, been a big part of my upbringing. Like as a kid, I slept on the pews, like my family was just always there. And so I was proposed to in front of my family and a couple people, from our church. My boyfriend made me like a video that played on the big screen. I had no idea that it was going to happen there. I thought we were all just, meeting there. So I remember thinking in that moment, I can't believe he's doing this in front of people. You know what I mean? Like, and I felt not embarrassed because of my family, but still like, that was my thought. I can't believe he's doing this in front of people. So when I saw Tia, I was like, oh my gosh, in front of that many people, I would be like losing my mind because I was losing my mind a little bit in front of 20 people. So I couldn't imagine 5,000 or however many people were in there. But I mean, I like it that she'll have at least video evidence of the memory for the rest of her life.
That's nice for her. I just feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just old fashioned. I'm just like, keep it smaller, keep it private. Also, they just like haven't been dating that long, but what do I know?
Yeah, I think I would not like that big of a crowd. It would make me just feel, but it's Tia, she's Tia. So I think she probably loved it. They're cute though. I like them together.
Yeah, I like Tia a lot. She's great. One last item. I have like almost no proof on this and I couldn't find it, but it showed up in my DMs a few times. Romeo, former guest of this podcast, is he dating Elizabeth, she of the shrimp?
Yeah, I also just very briefly saw something about this as well. And it's like, I couldn't find out any other information besides the fact that somebody saw them holding hands over the weekend. And like, that was it. But people are still like, oh, I mean, surely you don't hold your hands with like just your friends, do you?
No, but also it doesn't necessarily mean you're dating. Maybe you hooked up once. Maybe you met at the penny farthing and you're going home together. Like, who knows?
I don't know. I hope it's not true though, because I really want Elizabeth to be on Paradise.
I just want the best for Romeo. He seems like a slightly tortured soul. So I liked him a lot when he came on this pod, but I don't know. Seems like they could be a good mix or a good match, perhaps. What do I know? Anyway, there's a lot happening in Bachelor Nation. For the next couple of months, I'm hopefully going to do some interviews, keep up with the news. Morgan's always keeping up with Bachelor news, so follow her on all platforms and listen to her podcast. Morgan, thank you so much for joining me. It was an absolute delight. I'll be back on Wednesdays for the rest of the spring until we hit our Bachelorette season on July 11th. So let's go. Thanks to Erika Cervantes for producing this episode.